Hello and welcome back to Overseas Auto Reviews. Here I have this 2021 Ford Mustang Mach E Premium All-Wheel Drive to review, courtesy of Dwayne Lanes, Ford, and Lincoln of Skagit. Without further ado, let's break this vehicle down and complete a review. Up front on the Mach E, I actually do quite like this design. It is a lot more round and bulbous than you see on your regular Mustang, but this isn't your average Mustang. On the front you see this very nice blacked out pony badge, signifying that it is a Mustang. And then alongside that you do have this nice piano black wrapping, which does not lead to anywhere. There are no vents anywhere on the exterior of this vehicle. Lower portion does have this large grille, you could say, with the parking sensors on it as well. You see these slits, they do not actually go anywhere, simply for design. The lower portion does have this nice gloss black splitter, which does lead into the fender flares, which I will show you once I get to the side of the vehicle. Overall, just a nice big license plate bracket, and you also do have your front facing camera, which is nice when you are in a tight parking spot. And then the lights on this new Mach E do have somewhat of a representation of the old Mustang, but these are a lot newer and these are LEDs as well, and they do look very good. Now, usually in a regular review, I would show what's underneath this hood because there was an engine there, but it's not the case for the Mach E since it is completely electric. Now, before I do actually open this frunk, meaning front trunk, I have to show you what this hood is about because it does resemble much of a Mustang. It is long and it does have these two body lines running across it, and then it does have these little slits in the corners, which are off pretty much a lot of Mustangs. Now, with this trunk already released in the driver's footwell, I can just throw it up like this. It is hydraulically controlled, so you don't have to prop it up with any little tool. Now, I would actually do a trunk test in here, but I cannot because this divisor has been fixed into place with plastic screws. Now, if it did try to fit myself in there, I'd probably be able to fit half of myself, which really isn't too bad for a front trunk. These front trunks really aren't meant to store things because you do have a rear tailgate as well. You do have two cutouts for bottles just in case you'd like to open up a drink in front of your electric Mustang. The top portion of this hood does feature the Mustang pony running around, which is always nice. The Mach E does feature two electric motors, one in the front, one in the rear, allowing you to have all-wheel drive, connected to an 88 kilowatt-hour battery, allowing you to have up to 270 miles of range under full charge in the most efficient setting with the most efficiently driving driver. The motors do provide you with 346 horsepower and 428 pound-feet of torque, allowing the vehicle to reach 60 in just 4.8 seconds, which is staggeringly quick for a crossover. At the wheels, the Mach E does have 19 by 225 millimeter width wheels. I do actually like these wheels, but I would prefer the ones off the Mach E GT, which are more staggered and spoked. These are machine faced, which kind of fits the car pretty well, with piano black within the wheel and the pony badge as the center cap. The brakes are also quite large on the vehicle, considering that this is over 4,000 pounds. You do need good brakes to stop such a large vehicle. The calipers are quite pressed into the disc, which actually does look good considering that the wheel has to be pretty close to the calipers for utmost range possibility. At the side of the Mach E, I'd actually say it's pretty good looking. I do like the way that Ford has overall designed the Mach E, and I think that it shouldn't be called a Mustang because it doesn't look enough like a Mustang to be called the Mustang. A Mach E would definitely be more of a fitting name, but that's all marketing. So at the side you can see that it does feature this more bulbous design mimicking the front and rear as well, but you do have that tapered off rear end mimicking a fastback, and this rear door panel does look a lot like a Mustang's door panel as well. This lower badge right here does show you that it is a Mach E, but the E has a little 4 next to it, meaning that this is the four-wheel drive variant, and the X because it can be there. Now, you do have these fender flares which do run all across the vehicle, tying into the rear, so it's pretty much just a body kit, you could say, from the factory, even though the wheels do not provide enough negative offset to fill that wheel gap. That is probably for arrange reasons, to squeeze out as much miles as they could. The door opening situation is also quite funny. You do have this little button which you can press. Once you do that, the door does come open a bit. Now you can just pull the door like so, and it does open quite nicely. It does have nice weight to it, which I do like. And you can also have this little handle over here, which is fixed in place. In order to lock the vehicle, there's a little indentation which you do press, and the mirrors do fold in, which are gloss black. I do like those as well. The side of the vehicle is very well designed. I think it looks good. There can definitely be improvements, but as it stands right now in 2021, good looking vehicle. At the rear of the Mach E, you will see the most notable feature relating to a classic Mustang, and that is these rear taillights, which are still sequential, which I absolutely love. It's my favorite feature on any Mustang, period. In between those taillights, you do have this pony badge in black with the reverse camera on top. You do have this very nice gloss black spoiler which does protrude over the rear window, which is significantly slanted. You also do have the rear windshield wiper. The lower portion does feature this gloss black bumper with the parking sensors within those as well. There are no exhaust tips because there is no internal combustion engine, so I cannot say that they're fake because, well, they don't exist. Now, in order to actually open the trunk, you will need the key. Once you take the key, you tap it twice, and it should come to life. Now I shall give you a little trunk test. Alright, I'm not too worried about the trunk test since this tailgate is quite large. Fit in very nicely. I cannot close it because the only way to close it is through the top, and that top does come down pretty nicely and effortlessly. You also do have this little tonneau cover which is made of fabric, but it does do the job to hide anything from the outside. Overall, a very nice trunk area. The rear on the Mach E is really comfortable, especially this premium one. I say the premium one specifically because the premium does get these nice black leather seats, which do feel really nice and soft, and they do bolster you pretty well. Now, footroom is a issue because I have almost none of it with it set in my desired driving position. Headroom, however, is absolutely no issue whatsoever. I have easily 6 inches because you do have this huge glass plane which does run all the way into the rear. Knee room, again, about 2 to 3 inches, not the best, but the headroom does make up for it. The door panel does feature this black leather along with this speaker cover made by Bang & Olufsen, which is an option in the vehicle. I do highly suggest you get it because Bang & Olufsen does make some of the best speakers in the vehicle speaker department. You also do have a relatively narrow cubby, but it's not that bad. Overall, for a rear end, it is really good. The center does have 2 air vents with one setting to choose how much air you'd like to blow through. You also have a USB-C and USB-A charging port. Now, the driver's side is definitely the place that you want to be on the Mach E. It feels a lot more premium than the rear end and a lot more premium than any other Mustang I've been in. My one major complaint with any Mustang was definitely interior quality, which Ford has definitely addressed with this Mach E. Yes, it's not the regular Mustang, but interior quality has definitely been stepped up. The door panel is literally the exact same as the one on the rear, except you do have these memory settings for your seats and the unlock and lock buttons. The left side does have this little air vent with its blowing speed regulation, and then you have your light controls over there. Here is the same release for the front, which I mentioned earlier, and you do have this little Mustang plaque on the side. I do like the steering wheel quite a lot. It is completely leather wrapped with piano black on the bottom and below the volume switches, along with the cruise control settings. It is nice and thick, which is also a nice thing in my opinion. I do like thick steering wheels. The left side does have just the simple turn signal stalk, and the right stalk does feature a simple wiper switch control. Let me get you onto the rear seat so you can properly see the screen, and let me go over that really quickly. Now we are completely inside the Mach E. Let me start the vehicle, foot on the brake. And you you can see the modernized Pulse from Ford, which does sound really good. I actually really enjoy that noise every time I start up the vehicle. Now, one thing I do like about the Mach E is this very nice digital display on the driver's side behind the steering wheel. It does feature your range, your battery charge, what's around your vehicle, and your ground speed, which is interesting because we're not going to drive this thing on water or air. So ground speed is quite an interesting way to just show speed. Now, you also have what setting your transmission is in, and that is controlled through this little wheel. And once you do put it into reverse, the reverse camera does pop up, which is quite nice. You can also see your location, your tire pressure, what devices you have connected, and along with that, just the owner's manual in this center display. This can be configured to your liking, which is always great. You also have your climate control system, which is fixed into this part of the screen. Always great, no one can complain that way. And you also have this manual adjusting volume knob, which is also a complaint that people get in a fully digital display. And this is definitely one of the best parts of this screen, the fixed volume knob and the fixed climate control display. Here you have your basic radio settings, which is always great, but the important stuff is all in this part of the menu right over here. You can also have one pedal drive in the vehicle, which will change the settings so that all you have to do is press the accelerator pedal to both drive and brake, accelerate to actually move, and once you do let off, the vehicle will brake itself, which is always great. I have this toggled off. I do prefer to drive with two pedals. You also have this propulsion sound, which is when you accelerate heavily, the vehicle will play a nice sound for you. I think it mimics a V8 Mustang. It's just been toned down heavily. I like it, but others may not. You also have engage mode, which is just another smart way of saying sport mode. Whisper mode, which I could say is just an efficiency mode, and then unbridled, which I have yet to figure out actually. You also have your camera settings. I showed you the camera before, it was pretty good. Your driver's assistance and your valet mode, which will confine the vehicle in its rowdiness. Here you have your Bang & Olufsen speaker settings. I do like how nice and modernized this display is. It is extremely responsive as well, and overall it's a very nicely built infotainment system. Ford struggled with that in their previous vehicles, but they've definitely addressed what needed to be addressed in this Mach E. Again, all of your other system settings, but the one setting I did like quite a bit was in display, and once you go down a bit, you can see that the instrument cluster mode is set in dark, and I can actually change that to light. And this display in front of the driver will turn light, which is really nice. I do prefer it in dark since the interior is black, but there is lots of nice configurability with the vehicle. The vehicle does also come with ambient lighting. I cannot see it too well in this sunny daylight settings, but once you do go into a darker setting or night, the ambient lights do pop up really nicely, and I do like the way that they look. This is somewhat like Mercedes-Benz or Audi is doing with their ambient lighting system, and that's really good to see that Ford is trying to keep up with these higher recognition brands. The center console does feature this wireless charging pad. I tested it out. It does take a second for it to connect, but once it's there, it does work perfectly fine. Underneath this panel right over here, you do have additional storage, 2 cup holders, and the USB-A and USB-C charging ports right over there. This portion, just the gear select system, your parking brake, your hazards, and your parking sensor options. And once you do flip this center armrest up, you can see this little center cubby. It is pretty small, but you do have a 12-volt outlet in there. This dash is really well made. I do like this mix of cloth with the Bang & Olufsen South system and the carbon fiber trim as well, mixed with the soft touch leather. Overall, I'd say that this is a really well built interior from a Ford. Ford was struggling with their interior quality and interior looks, and they have definitely stepped up their game with this vehicle, and I'm excited to see how far Ford can go with their interior luxury. This is a premium, so you should have a premium interior. Let's take this vehicle out on the road and have a bit of fun, and let me tell you how well this drives. Now I do have my tripod set up in the rear, and I do like that the vehicle popped up to check for child in the back, since it does notice that there is a bit of pressure being applied to the seats. Really nice feature. A feature I forgot to point out earlier in the Mach E is that you do have a heated steering wheel, which is great, and the voice assistant button is also located over here. You can also set up a keyword through these menu settings right over here. Another cool thing about the Mach E is the noise it gives you when you do turn the vehicle off.
Having the 2021 Mach E Premium, and I've got to say it's actually quite a surprisingly well driving vehicle. The vehicle picks up speed really easily, and there's no hesitation from the throttle since it is instantaneous through the electric motors. Here we'll do a little standstill acceleration to just above the speed limit. That was not full throttle, but there was no wheel spin whatsoever. We did have traction control still completely on, and this vehicle does mean business. It's not like your average Mustang where the rear wheels will keep spinning forever. The vehicle does turn in quite nicely. At sometimes the steering wheel does feel a bit disconnected from the vehicle, but that does come back in specific turns. It all ideally has to do with how fast you're going in a corner. Overall, I'd say steering is very good, and the brakes are also extremely twitchy. I believe that has something to do with the regenerative braking, so that the vehicle can charge under deceleration. Going over a bump right there, you could see that the suspension really isn't that stiff as like you'd see in any other Mustang. The rebound stiffness is very good, no harsh jarring in the suspension, which I quite like. Wind noise in the cabin really isn't bad when you are not going too fast. Once you are up at highway speeds, the wind noise does pick up quite significantly, and I'll show you that in a few seconds. For the Mach E, I'd say the only real competition is the Tesla Model Y. And in terms of the Model Y in comparison to the Mach E, I would definitely take the Mach E. My reasoning for this is that the Mach E has a lower base price, and it's finished a lot better than this Model Y. The exterior styling as well is much better on the Model Y in my opinion. Yes, you are suffering range and power, but really you don't need much more of that when you have instant torque. 346 horsepower is a pretty good power number in a crossover. You don't get that in any other gas vehicle. The Model 3 is also very reminiscent of this Model Y, so the Mustang Mach E doesn't look like any other Mustang, and that's what differentiates it. So when you think about it like that, the Model Y isn't as good as a vehicle in comparison to the Mach E.
And that is the complete review on the 2021 Ford Mustang Mach E Premium all-wheel drive. In my opinion, this is the ideal all-electric crossover that you can buy on the market. I'd actually prefer this over a Model Y since the price does do you a lot of justice. Now, this does have a base price of $55,000 with the extended battery and the premium trim. This has about $1,600 in options, which means that this vehicle does cost $56,640, and that's a really good price for what you're paying. The looks on this vehicle are unmatched in terms of its segment, and the driving is actually pretty good as well. If you're not used to an electric vehicle, you'll slide really nicely into this vehicle without an issue. The pulse sound is also something I actually quite like. To think that they're involving some of their heritage into an electric vehicle is also a really nice thing. That is all for today. Please consider subscribing if you haven't already, and remember to keep on driving.